She came through.
She did come through.
Tara's onto it.
The only last going, I don't know how that works.
Oh, that'll be Margot. No, it's all right. Just it'll go off in a moment.
Okay, so I think we're we're live on YouTube now.
I'll just turn my phone off. 6. There we go.
Okay. All righty. So we have connection. Good. Excellent. Okay. So how's our time? So we were talking about before the break about the ways in which we transform our body into the pure body, our speech into the pure speech, our mind into the pure mind. There are practices that guide you through that, right? But it's also, so we talk about the 4 purities. So having the pure abode, the environment, the pure land, transforming that. Having the pure body, we'll go into more details about that, the body of the deity, the Buddha. And we talk about the pure enjoyments. So this is I should have said body and mind. So the pure enjoyments or resources, it said, as we made that offering this morning of the chai, and I mentioned about transforming, purifying the offering that, and then the pure enjoyments is when we actually receive those offerings to enjoy, right? So the offerings of that, and there are various visualization, the light goes out, comes back, and we receive and enjoy the resources. So usually we look at that in the context of making offerings, and offering dakinis, make those offerings if you have highest return, make those offerings to you and so forth. And then in terms of our actions, so the actions, instead of focusing on our ordinary actions, because we say, I don't have the capability of a Buddha, and would be correct in our conventional sense. I can't manifest as many bodies as atoms of the earth. I can't manifest any more than one body, as far as I'm aware. But through our practice, So we talk about viewing all our actions, or all actions as the enlightened activities of the Buddhas, all actions as enlightened activities of the Buddha. So this is a huge training of the mind and process to undergo. So just taking a step back to maybe summarize or clarify. So deity, we talk about the deity. In this context, it's the deity we meditate on, whether that be Chenrezig, Tara, Manjushri, or in highest yoga tantra, might be, the main ones, Yamantaka, Giri Samaja, Chakra Samvara, Haruka Chakra Samvara. So they're the sort of main ones, but there are many others. I was just looking at, again, during the break time at our Lama Tsongkhapa merit field. And anyway, I'll bring the diagrams again this afternoon. Some of you have received those diagrams, and we've gone through that in terms of when we did refuge module and looking at, well, who's everybody in there? And it's interesting because then you look at it from a Tantra perspective and you get a little bit, anyway, in the meantime, hopefully a little bit more familiarity comes, and later a bit more familiarity comes. So all the tantric lineages are there as well, keeping in mind this is all goes back to the Buddha. Okay. And so the deity yoga practice is the practice that we do focused on a particular meditational deity in that sadhana, that practice, the method for attaining that deity. So that's the function of that. So in the practice, what we're doing is on the basis of the body generating a clear appearance. In other words, we say illusory body or clear appearance. Going to talk about the bodies of the Buddha in a minute. and divine pride. We talked about that, the pure pride in ourselves as the deity, not in our ordinary form, not in the ordinary form of fake pride or arrogance or so forth, superiority, not that. It's actually nothing like that. Okay, so that combination, and we recite the mantra. So this is generally what happens in all those practices, and engage in activities in that practice as well as making offerings, receiving offerings. So that's encompasses all the 4 purities. Okay. So it's not, deity yoga isn't imagining someone we're not. You know, it's not in that conventional sense. I think I'm, you know, well, I could imagine I'm a great tennis player, but I tell you what, get me on a tennis court and that itself would be a challenge because I'm not walking very far at the moment, let alone be able to have any, actually, if I was a great tennis player, they'd just have it strapped up and they'd be going ding, 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 ding. They'd be like, what's your problem, you know? Anyway, so it's not that, or it's not pretending to be the meditational deity, okay? So it's not a masquerade. It's actually tapping into our enlightened nature, our Buddha nature, and it's practice on that basis of our Buddha nature, and potential enlightenment. So we're practicing identifying the Buddha we will become, you know, identifying ourselves with the Buddha we will become one day. And we might say, well, I don't know which Buddha I'm going to become one day. You become your own Buddha. So when one comes to a point of thinking about taking tantric empowerments, generally you get advice of our lamas, you know, what's going to be most beneficial and so forth. So sometimes when people would talk about, I mean, hopefully they don't talk about, but they have, it might say my personal yidam or so forth, that you've been advised by a lama to practice. Again, you don't advertise. Having said that, of course, we thought that Vajrayogini self-initiation practice day wasn't on today. And it was like, it's not on. Yes, it's on. No, it's not. Yes, it is. Well, they're down there. And of course, people see them rock up and so they know, oh, they must have that empowerment. But whether or not that's a personal deity, we have no idea. And it's not our business. So just saying. All right. So, yeah. So in order to engage so that we're not got the wrong idea of what it is to be doing deity yoga practice, and that's not about our self-identity, pretending, you know, us in our sort of contaminated form and afflicted form, you know, pretending. So in order to do that, we practice this, you know, the emptiness. We said we had to have the 3 principles of the path anyway, but this is where we're also practicing that in the path of we dissolve our ordinary appearance into emptiness so that from that we can arise in the form of the deity. That's the idea of the function of that. Whatever, of the deity of whatever empowerment we've received, okay? So when we say in the form, so there are multiple Buddha forms. So we generally talk about the illusory body or the body and the mind, the Buddha body, Buddha mind. So we could talk about there's 2 kayas. It says body, but the mind is like this morning in the Taitong Gyalpo prayer we had, it said, you know, abide in the space-like clarity of, you know, your own Dharmakaya, whatever the hell that is, you know, is that pure wisdom mind. It says body, but it's not a physical body as we know it, right? So that is our true wisdom nature. And that comes from meditating on the clear light nature of mind. Now, generally, it's said, we sometimes talk about, as I said, the two bodies. Rupa means form, so it's form body of a Buddha. Okay, and then we talk about the Dharmakaya as the if we're taking just the two, the Dharmakaya as the wisdom body, the truth body of the Buddha, ultimate. But that can also be divided into two, because we also say the essence body or nature body, nature Dharmakaya or nature truth body, nature wisdom body. In other words, that body itself, or that mind itself, is also in the nature of emptiness. Right? So that everything. So sometimes people think, oh, if you're a Buddha, emptiness doesn't apply. It applies to absolutely everything. I mean, when we did our little, sort of dedication this morning, enlightenment, the state of enlightenment, omniscient mind of a Buddha, is empty of inherent existence as well. So it applies to everything. Okay. Anyway, probably Dharmakaya is enough to go on with in terms of wisdom mind, because that it becomes essential in our practice. And then we have, in terms of the form body, we say that, these meditational deities, this is called Sambhogakaya aspect, or enjoyment body. As I mentioned earlier, this is all the totally purified form of a Buddha that has come, the representations of which we have come through the realizations of those who have direct perception of the Buddha in that form. It's quite fascinating. I remember a Dharma friend saying, a friend of his, as far as he knew, wasn't even a Dharma practitioner, went to see the Dalai Lama. She had got an interview with the Dalai Lama, right? Wow, that itself, it blows your mind. She had the karma to have an interview with the Dalai Lama. And when she came back, he said, how was it? And what she described as the Dalai Lama was Thousand-Armed Chenrezig. Of course, Kandrila, when she first encountered, that's what she saw. But this woman, so one would have to deduce, if she hadn't practiced it in this life, she certainly practiced it in past lives. So there you go. Now, that has never happened for me. Just saying. Just saying. So, of course, we hear the stories, Lama Tsongkhapa and Asanga, the story of Asanga not seeing Maitreya, and then the out of his pure altruistic compassion for the dog and the maggots that infected it, at the moment that his tongue goes out looking to get the maggots off very gently, of course, he sees Maitreya after all these 12 years and say, where were you, because he had to purify the obscurations of his mind that were veils. So they do say that, we talk about Buddhas on every atom of space. Do I see that? No, absolutely not. So many veils, many obscurations. So this pure form, Sambhogakaya aspect, enjoyment body aspect, is seen by Arya beings who have that direct perceptual realization of emptiness. So that's who sees that. So one can deduce that then a Sangha at that point, and a Lama Tsongkhapa, that he had the direct transmissions from Manjushri, and Bhikshuni Lakshmi, when she had the direct transmissions from Chenrezig, had attained that state, because that's where you can perceive that, right? For those of us who are not there yet, the Buddhas manifest, we say, Namanakaya aspect, which is emanation body. So they can manifest in whatever form we have the karma to perceive. So that, for example, Shakyamuni Buddha in the aspect of a monk, Dalai Lama in the aspect of a monk, Lama Zopa Rinpoche, aspect of monk, these to manifest in Lama Tsongkhapa, aspect of monk, so that to manifest in a form not only that we can communicate with, but receive the teachings with. And even then, we probably need a few commentaries, right? Well, we do, right?
And they do that for our benefit.
They do it for our benefit. Because, you know, I remember seeing the Dalai Lama one time with a cold, and I thought, you've done that for our benefit. You know, taking the human body, of course, it's subject to cold. He had cancer, he had, you know, knee problems. I mean, good company.
Can be a beggar.
Hey? They can be a beggar. They can be a bridge. They can be a road. Whatever's needed for beings. So they can manifest in animate, inanimate. They can be, you know, there's the stories of, you know, I can't remember all the details, which is probably good because it's probably a long story. But, you know, the dog, and it was an emanation of His Holiness. I can't remember the whole story, but anyway, it was like that. And of course, with our obscured minds, just like a sangha, well, mine's rather more obscure than a sangha. It took more than taking maggots off it would take a lot more than taking maggots off a dog, even with compassion for the dog. But he'd done his 12 years of meditation, you know, of his, you know, strong practice.
It was like
He saw a dog. He saw a dog. But then, yes, the breakthrough came. And so that dissolved, that appearance of dog did not exist. So you can see it is imputed by the mind. So it's all dependent on our mind, what we see. Venerable Yangchen during the break, and her and Venerable Wangmo were talking, and it was like, well, clearly she doesn't see what you see. And of course you don't see what I see. And, you know, none of us. As Lama Yeshe said, we have our own universe, our own mandalas, our own stories, right? We all like that. Is that point before? This is not. James, is that now that the problem is saying bandwidth low? Is that now? Is that before? Yes, now. Gosh, what about everyone else?
I have good sound on there on my one. Is
Virginia
anyone
says
else
she's
having
got good
trouble?
sound.
Maybe it's
Ingrid's got
James's.
great sound.
Fine here.
Yeah,
Okay.
perfect for Ingrid.
Okay.
So maybe James.
It may be your end.
Oh, sorry, I just. Yeah.
Sorry, James. Everyone else seems great. Even over in New Zealand, they've got a good sound. All that way across the ditch.
from his side.
It is okay. Sarah said it's okay. Kay says it's okay. It says my
Oh,
network.
okay.
So
Yeah.
I can't fix your network.
Can't
so
fix that. Sorry. It will be on YouTube, so
It is on YouTube. Actually.
It is on
You can try
YouTube.
YouTube.
try that. Okay. Sorry about that.
It's live now.
Live. YouTube's live now. I keep looking for Venerable Gompo so we can sing her happy birthday. So yesterday, for those on Zoom, I mentioned to the others, please come in, make yourself at home, have a good look around. Venerable Gompo had his daughter took him out for breakfast, so he couldn't join us on his birthday. Oh, he zoomed in this morning for the prayer-a-thon, and so Graham and whoever else was here wished him happy birthday. Thank you very much. Yes. I think that might be his second birthday as a monk. His second birthday as a monk.
Just over 1 year.
1 year, 1 month, or maybe it's his first birthday. I don't know.
Oh, first birth. No,
Maybe
I'm not sure.
it's complicated.
Gompola.
Yes.
Um,
Second birthday as monk.
As a monk, yes. He would have been 1 month in and then had his first birthday.
yeah, it's about 3 weeks too.
So Venerable Wangmo tomorrow, first birthday is none.
No, a month ago, I think.
Gompola.
Oh,
Wangmo.
Sorry, Wangmo, yes.
Okay,
Yes,
all right.
Wangmo, yeah.
So in the early stages of practice, the process of seeing oneself as the deity does feel artificial. When we say early stages of practice, I think that can last for a long time. You know, there'll be moments, just like when we, in any case, meditate on clear light nature of mind, we have sometimes a feeling like we're in the zone, and then a second later it's gone. So it is building up. We train in the deity yoga with the perseverance, and eventually be able to perceive this self-generated deity with clarity far exceeding that of our present self-image. So you can see where we need also the basis of shamatha practice, of developing a mind of concentration. First of all, you've got to stay focused on the actual practice and not forget what you're doing. There is that. I mean, just that basic level. It's true, right? But having the clarity that comes, and indeed one could attain shamatha on the basis of the deity, you know, but that having that clarity, and as more and more we engage in also the purification practices, as we see in the 7 limbs, you know, Vajra practice or Samaya Vajra, I wanted to mention that, or remind me when I get to the end of this paragraph, Samaya Vajra, okay? So more and more, it becomes more clear than our present self-image, which feels like it's innate, doesn't it? My self-image, I don't have to think about it, it's there. So this is the idea, it has more clarity, and your mind actually becomes the mind of the deity. So of course we practice, and you might say, well, that might be okay when I'm doing the meditation practice, but 5 seconds later I've lost it, you know. And this is where, as I was saying yesterday, the commentary about when you're meditating on emptiness, the extent to which you can hold that illusory nature of appearance post-meditation is the extent of your practice of emptiness. In other words, we can check up with ourselves, and so we can see our improvements over time. Okay. And our ordinary sensory experiences, what we see, hear, taste, and so forth, will be transformed into the blissful enjoyments of the deity. So just like this guy in the prison said, he heard the birds in the backyard of his mentor who was on the phone to him, and thought of the birds in the Pure Land. Now, maybe he conceptualized that, but he understood that. His mind didn't go to, oh, I wish those birds would be quiet so I can hear what you're saying. They're disrupting. He didn't say that. He said, oh, the birds in the Pure Land.
Yeah, it's so inspiring.
I mean, there's nothing like knowing death's coming sometime very soon to really focus your attention. It's true if you have a Dharma practice, but we want to do as much as we can before then, because we may not be compass at that time when death's coming soon. Right. Okay. So we know this because we've read, we've heard about the stories of many, many tantric practitioners who have indeed achieved this. So conclusion is, as His Holiness the Dalai Lama said, do your practice, you'll be in the Pure Land, you'll see the destruction of this world system. Not from a disengaged point of view, but an ability to be able to benefit others, you know. That's our point, you know, isn't it? So conclusion is, if we follow the same path, we'll get the same result. I mean, I think we all have faith in that. That's why we're here, isn't it? One would think. Okay. Samaya Vajra, thank you. I got to the end of the page, Samaya Vajra. So in the FPMT retreat book, I think page 116. I did sort of commit it to memory earlier this morning. So purification practices, because if we want to develop this clarity, as we already know from our Sutrayana path, we need to remove the obscurations of the mind. We looked at yesterday, you know, all everything that muddies the waters or distracts us off and puts all these colors in there that aren't there and does all, overexcites us and all of that sort of thing. So I think quite a few of us are familiar with the Vajra practice, which is good because we're talking about that more in December when we're talking about the preliminary practices that need, the practices for the completion of this module for those who wish to actually complete. This Samaya Vajra one, like we do during our morning practice here, I was going to say every day, but not necessarily every day, unless one has a commitment to do every day, in which case you would. So Samaya is your pledges, your commitments. So this is the thing of, we need to, as we said yesterday, maintain the ethics, the vows that we have taken. The vows themselves empower our minds. Holding those vows empower our minds. For that, we need to study the vows in the first place. Some of us have been, participating in the tutorials with Venerable Chokyi, going through the Bodhisattva vows and the, usually we say there's one vow and then there's, the 18 branch ways of, sort of main ways that you can break it. And then there's the 46 secondary downfalls. And you think, whoa, got to be careful, cultivate mindfulness. So we need to educate ourselves about the vows. I mean, it's pretty easy to remember: don't kill, don't steal, don't lie, no sexual misconduct, no intoxicants. Harder to do, but at least we can remember, and we might even remember which one breaks by the root, maybe, hopefully. And then so we have to do that with Bodhisattva vows. The Tantra vows come along in the higher levels of Tantra, not in the lower levels of Tantra. But in any case, we've taken vows. So the practice of Samaya Vajra purifies, in particular, so Samaya, pledge, vows, so forth, Vajra, so indestructible nature, in relation to the Guru, so we have in the Lama Tsongkhapa Guru Yoga, we combine this with the 5-line Migsema, or 4-line. Said, I did check with Geshe-la a few years ago and said, either's okay, but I like the 5-line because it includes everybody. Chenrezig, Manjushri and Vajrapani, they're all in there. So the instruction there is we're purifying negative karma, especially collected from beginningless time in relation to the Guru. So if you think it's difficult to remember the Guru's instructions this lifetime, I mean, this lifetime you've got everything happening for you, everything ripening for you, especially Venerable Yangshan sitting here with her nun's vows, her vows of ordination, right? Giving harm to the Guru's holy body. So so that we've got to understand also karma, that the heaviness of karma in relation to the object. So this is the heaviest one because the Guru is the one who's committed to guide you to enlightenment, even heavier than the parents. Why? Because the parents are of this life. That's heavy, but the Guru is the heaviest, giving harm to the holy body with malicious intent. It doesn't mean, oh, I tripped Geshe-la up because I was being mindless and I didn't really intend to. No. Well, I've never done that. I'm just saying so far, but it might happen. I'm not saying it might not happen. I think everyone would be angry with me if I did that. Disobeying the Guru's advice. So disobeying means not obeying. It doesn't necessarily mean doing the exact opposite. It means, as I mentioned this morning about Venerable Tenda, quickly following Rinpoche's advice, not just for himself, for all taking on the responsibility, because he is the director of IMI, for all the monks and nuns of FPMT, and saying, you're going to do this starting tomorrow. Or it might have been 2 days notice. It wasn't much. I think we did a lot here. Anyway, look, we did it. Fantastic. So it says to immediately put it into practice, the advice. Disturbing the Guru's holy mind. We have to be careful in our behavior, I think. I mean, we don't hopefully go out of our way to disturb the mind of the teacher. What could disturb the mind of the teacher? I'm just trying to think. Well, you don't follow the advice. I remember at Bendigo last time retreat with Lama Zopa Rinpoche, and the question arose about anger. And Rinpoche's response was, the thing that makes me angry, Rinpoche was saying, what made him angry is when students don't follow the Guru's advice. And this was a particular response to that person. Don't know the story, don't need to know the story, but it was basically saying, follow the advice. So he said, the thing that makes him angry, we would say manifest anger, show the wrathful aspect, is that. So that disturbs the holy mind, right? So think about that. Gives rise to non-devotional thoughts where you don't, sometimes people say, they see when the Lama is on the throne, they're the teacher, and when they're not on the throne, they don't see them in that aspect, which just not in a disrespectful way. I mean, at least how I've had it explained to me by that person, not in a disrespectful way, but it's just saying, well, if they want to hang out doing things that you might think are wrong, but what they say is we have to train our minds that this is them showing our delusions, our afflictions, because they're arising in a form that we can connect with. I sometimes think about that. If they're too pure, it's just like too much, because we live in a very impure world. So depending where we are in our spiritual development. So anyway, criticizing, breaking and degenerating your samayas with the Guru. So say you take an empowerment and you don't do the practice, or you don't keep your vows. You've taken vows and you don't keep them. And you don't do anything to purify them and confess it. I mean, we stuff up. Vajra Zopa said that. I stuffed up big time. I'm here to help you out. Do the purification practice straight away. So this one too, is doing the Samaya Vajra practice. So it's the same. Out of the compassion, all your gurus manifest as Samaya Vajra so you can purify all the negative karmas of having broken and degenerated your samayas, your pledges, your vows, especially the tantric samayas, if you hold them. And then there's a visualization, which is if you have the highest yoga tantra empowerment. Okay?
If I do it above them, okay.
Yeah, otherwise, above the crown of your head. Visualizing this all happening. And then we recite this mantra. So it's a lovely visualization. And at the end it says, generate strong faith that exactly what Samaya Vajra says has happened in reality. All your negative karmas, obscurations, and degenerated samayas are completely purified. It's great. I mean, it's like that, similar with Vajra Zopa, because you can say, this is the power of the object of the Buddha. We've done our bit, particularly if we apply the context of the four opponent powers in our purification practice. And then there's another instruction if you have highest yoga tantra, so don't need to read that. And then we think that we're purified. No, we think about the emptiness of yourself, the creator of negative karma. It doesn't mean you don't create negative karma. Sorry, you don't get off the hook. The emptiness in terms of it's all dependent arisings is not to get us off the hook. It's to say we can purify it. Because of emptiness, everything is possible. The action of collecting negative karma, of course that can be purified. We've just been doing a purification practice to purify it. So we're not collecting if we really apply the four opponent powers very strongly, especially the one of regret. And the negative karma that was collected are all empty of existing by way of their own nature, own side. So they're not existing inherently out there. You're not doomed, in other words. And we have so many stories of beings who are not doomed because they've done the practice. Okay?
And we need that good news.
And we do need that good news. I mean, you can say the whole of the Guru Yoga practice is purification. Well, it's an extended 7-limb practice, you know, prostration, you know, homage, making offerings, confessing our downfalls, rejoicing in the merits of others. So purification and accumulation. So same with the Sutrayana path. On the Tantrayana path, Mantrayana path, we're doing both, but it's much more powerful. Okay. So as we were, I'm going to go there or there. I know I've done that bit. That's good. Okay, so on the sutra path, we talk on both. We talk about method and wisdom, isn't it? So what's method on the sutra path? What do we talk about there? Compassion, great compassion, bodhicitta, the mind of enlightenment, the awakening mind, and the practices, the activities that we do on behalf of others, being of service to others. Stay well. When's your baby due? In December. A Christmas baby. Christmas package surprise for, you're going to have a little surprise for Christmas, are you? Sweet.
Thank you for coming.
That's making strong prayers to meet the Dharma even before you're born.
Yeah, people at home are probably wondering.
Yes, there was a couple with their little daughter and another one coming in December. See, from a karma point of view, you think, wow, you made very strong prayers to meet the Dharma. Amazing. Seems to have done a good job in the prayer department. Okay. So, and the wisdom is the penetrative insight into emptiness, the true nature of things, ultimate nature of things, the absence of inherent existence of ourselves and phenomena. So we talked about this, and there's more and more subtle levels of that. And so this is the distinction part. When we talk about a union of those, I mean, we touched on this lightly yesterday. When we talk about the union of that in sutra, they're like supporting each other. So they're not in the one consciousness, they're like sequential or alternating, right? So this is a distinction. So we set our bodhicitta motivation, isn't it, every time. So we're meditating on emptiness, but with the bodhicitta motivation, which empowers the mind that meditates on emptiness. So this is why it's much more powerful on the bodhisattva path than it is on the path of solitary realizer, path of hearers, solitary realizers. Okay, those are your beings. So you're using that motivation to strengthen your the power of your meditation, realizing emptiness and getting there, and the increasing wisdom that comes, of course, strengthens your bodhicitta because you're more in sync with reality. So you can see, wow, there definitely is a time of great degeneration. The world is coming to an end, and I've made this aspiration to benefit all beings. I better do it quick, smart, you know. I mean, it does. It propels you. So the distinction is it's not simultaneous. It is complementary and it's sequential. The distinction is that particularly highest yoga tantra, in highest yoga tantra actually, where I'm just looking at the time thinking I was going to do the meditation. Anyway, we'll do it after lunch. We'll talk about it. We'll do it next month.
There are options.
There are options. Okay. Highest Yoga Tantra. So we're talking about this subtle, very subtle level of mind, wisdom, consciousness, directly perceiving emptiness. So it's that, the great yogis run towards death. Well, I don't know if they can run at that point, but the time of death, where we go through the ordinary dissolution process, which all the elements implode, and then all the consciousness, gross consciousnesses implode, all the conceptual awarenesses implode. In other words, dissolve, and we're left with this clear light mind, which we've been saying is our innate purity, but most of us uncontrolled by karma, with contaminated aggregates, just get propelled willy-nilly into our next rebirth, depending on the state of our mind and, our karma, throwing karma, ripening at that point. Okay. So in highest yoga tantra, this consciousness instead arises in the form of the meditational deity. So we do all these dissolutions, and instead of being propelled by karma, taking control, arising as a meditational deity. That's what you're aiming for, right? And so that's why they run towards it, because you can complete that, if you haven't already, tantric path right there in your clear light meditation at the time of death.
Death being an opportunity to reach full enlightenment.
Death being an opportunity. I mean, you might have the realization of emptiness there. You might have, it depends where you are, you might have, complete the path right there in that moment, because it's the most subtle level of mind, and that's what you want. If you have control over the mind to the extent of being able to control those processes, of course, as I said, most of us, it's lights out, we're gone. So this is the importance of that, because when else does that very subtle level of mind arise? Anyone know? What other times? What other times that very most subtle level of mind? So not when you're dreaming, that is a subtle level of mind, but it's not this one. So it says when you're fainting.
Oh.
Ever tried mid-faint? Hold on, I just want to meditate on emptiness, or I just want to... No. Good luck with that one. Sneezing, and I've never figured that one out.
Must be
You never captured that moment of, like, it's a nanosecond, if that, right?
Near death. No, it's a near death experience.
Yes, orgasm is the other one. Excuse me. I just want to pause here a moment. It's not going to happen, right? You get carried away.
So you have your body is in what stage?
It's your mind. Your body is in bliss.
Yes.
Your body's in bliss. Even the fainting, your body's in bliss. Even the sneezing. At that nanosecond.
You have deep insight as well, I think.
You have deep insight only if you have the capacity, have developed your mind to that point. And these great yogis, yes, have deep insight at that point. So we're aiming towards that. I mean, we say we get in touch with the innate clear light nature of the mind. Most of the time what we're doing, we've got some generic image of that. So it's conceptual, right? For most of us, it's conceptual, but we're working towards it. We understand that it's a possibility. So that's what we're doing. Understand it's a possibility, right? So that form of the meditational deity we call, the Dharmakaya, illusory body, and there's a whole, that goes up, there's a whole different levels of that, of purity of that, impure illusory body, pure, that's a whole more elaborate presentation. But the consciousness, okay, the union of method and wisdom, the clear light nature of mind and the illusory body, which we say bliss and emptiness, is in the one consciousness. Right. So we did talk about that a little bit yesterday. So just, yeah. And this is unique. It's only in Tantra that has the means of generating that simultaneous experience, which is why we need it, right? It's the most subtle level of mind, combinate experience of method and wisdom combined. It's the most powerful path and the only path to achieve full enlightenment. Which answers Eva's question. Eva, no, it hasn't answered a question.
So I'm thinking, I think that's the book is called Buddhist Brain.
Buddha's Brain. There's a book called Buddha's Brain.
He mentioned about our gross mind just only can't handle thoughts, two thoughts at the same time.
Correct. Our gross mind can't handle two thoughts at the same time.
It switches itself very, very quickly.
Yes, our mind alternates very quickly, very quickly. Even when meditating,
Yes.
because, so it switches.
Yeah, so
Alternates.
I'm wondering whether that's the reason when our gross mind is operating like then we can't achieve the union because of that. We can't have two things at the same time.
No, it has to, union, what does that mean? Non-dual. It means coming together.
Yeah.
It's got to come together. For union, it's got to come together. And so it's coming together in the one consciousness.
So we have to completely suppress
Yes.
our gross mind
Yeah.
to achieve that. Because
We have to completely suppress, purify, and so forth. I mean, we probably suppress until we have, not probably, we do, until we actually have purified absolutely the knowledge obscurations, the obscurations to omniscience as well. So we could say at some level it's suppressed, at some level we've developed realizations. It's not suppression, it's just an absence, Right. Yeah. So only a Buddha has the capacity and differentiates from the Bodhisattva, right? Only a Buddha has the capacity to be in meditative equipoise on emptiness and engage in those enlightened activities, benefiting others at the same time, simultaneously, right? Only a Buddha can do that. So that comes from this mind. Because it's not contradictory, It's not like, oh, hold on, I'm in meditation, then I've got to get up and practice the 6 perfections. Oh, no, I've perfected them. Do them, benefit others. As many bodies as you, depending on whatever ground you're on. So it's not a problem for a Buddha, simultaneously, Amazing, isn't it? So they can be like, say, our lamas that we regard as Buddhas, I remember somebody talking a little bit about, I can't remember all the details about Lama Zopa Rinpoche would be giving instructions to someone at the same time, doing his meditation on emptiness and at the same time doing his sadhana practice. Very efficient, I have to say. You can do all that at the same time. Love it. But I know I can't. I mean, having concentration on any one of those things is challenging enough, let alone all together simultaneously, single point of concentration. So on that note, we're going to have a lunch break. We're going to celebrate Venerable Gompo's birthday in his absence. I think that's okay, isn't it?
So we celebrated yours the other day, your absence.
Yeah, that's right. You celebrated mine the other day in my absence. I was in a reclining posture. So I've improved.
It's all in the mind.
And we'll celebrate Venerable Wongmo's because it's tomorrow and she's celebrating tomorrow with her mum. So sorry, Venerable Wongmo, if you're, no, she's not online. She's having a little break because there's no secrets. We know you're going out with your mum tomorrow, which is as it should be. Okay, so let's go. Those of us who are here are going to have a lunch together. So I don't know, we've got to turn everybody off, don't we? And say,
yes, we do. Because
so we can't leave you chatting amongst yourselves. Sorry, folks. So think up some juicy questions, debates, observations, clarifications, comments. We'll deal with those at 1:30.
Oh, yes, 1:30.
1:30.
Yes, 1:30.
We're back to our normal timing today,
That's what I was just checking.
more or less.
Thank you.
Okay. Stay well. See you later on.
See you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. You want to?
That's right. Yeah, I know. This is the thing. It's
Sorry.
No, no, yeah, I'm just saying.